things are towers. We have bad days, we need those towers, that's when they get backed up. Now, some of the heavy-duty stuff, again, we want them under contract. We don't want them subcontracted out. So, can I give you an exact number? No, I can't do that. I think what we're looking for with using these vendors is we're trying to provide the most efficient service. You know, not only is there a time constraint in there, but it's also doing it in the most professional manner where we're maintaining control over them. Again, I can't stress enough that it would mean a lot to us to be able to maintain and know that this person's under contract as opposed to them being subcontracted out with somebody else. So that's basically what we can give you in a nutshell.
Councilman Ryman, did you have something?
My concern is we're all of a sudden going to 3 towers. Overall, like you just said, how many heavy tows do we worry about a year? How many big heavy tows that we would use?
We don't have a specific number because it varies so
much.
much.
1, 2, 3, or 4?
Oh, no, you're going to be more than that, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, we're going to go to 3 towers. We're going to want to go to 3 towers, just like we went with the cement company, that we're going to go to 3 vendors for cement. And only one get $800,000 worth of business this year, or last year, and the other 2 have gotten nothing yet. We got $200,000 left in that budget. And here we are worrying about 3 towers, and I'm worried about number 1, area towing. I have about as much trust as him, especially when the FBI put him on a listening device, and you know just as well as I do, nobody gets a listening device on a phone unless something serious has happened and that judge believes that they have probable cause. And the way that area towing has treated the citizens, and I've heard about this company and seen personally, I wouldn't give him a job in the garbage dump.
Okay.
Period. And Martin Towing, I suggest you go downtown and ask the prosecutor yourself about Mr. Martin and ask him if they'll give you a copy of the incident report regarding an incident she turned down in reference to a Jaguar.
We'll go ahead. We'll talk about this. It's not a problem. Part of the investigation is not only speaking with their references, which we did. We spoke to all their references, but also doing a criminal background check. Now, I'm restricted in what I can tell you about convictions. You know that from your past positions. But I can tell you that each one of these vendors has some blemishes. Each one of them. And we can put weight on which one's more severe. We can look at all of them. I think many of the complaints that we've had on area towing was the excellent part of this RFP, which I'm going to get into in a moment, talks about our fees. Because many of the issues that we did have there had to do with the fees. Because from a police department standpoint, and I've had this discussion with many people, I'm concerned about A, when I call them, do they show up in a timely manner? I'm concerned about B, when they get there, do a good job. After that, do they damage the car? After that, are there any theft complaints? And area checks a lot of those boxes where we don't have those problems. We did have problems with some of the pricing, and I've never been in a position where I could have any input or say in that. And I think this RFP has allowed the police department to at least get their hands around this problem. Morally, ethically, I would like our towers, whomever it may be, to be in, I can't say national standards, but at least let's call it Metro Detroit standards of pricing. I believe in some transparency. And when you go to a restaurant, you order a steak, it's this price. If you get mushrooms on it, we add this amount. If you get a salad, it's this amount. So what we try to do with the pricing things, we try to create that transparency so that you could check these boxes for these services and these services only, and then we came up with a fair price for them. So although this is not a perfect system, you have to remember this has been very difficult for all of us for a long time.
So can you give me an idea, just for the basic tow, I'm looking at the first tow,
Okay.
Basic tow, what someone would pay right this minute in the city of Taylor?
A lot of money. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact dollars out in front of you. I can tell you the first. We had some issues with printing today. The original first tow was $150, and there's a flatbed fee that, or what do we call that one? Tow from the roadway or something.
So
another $150.
Would it be fair to say that if a tow today was done, it would be twice the amount if this was passed tomorrow? If this was passed tomorrow,
The rates are going to go down substantially.
at least half.
I mean, I would think that'd be a fair statement, but again, without sitting down and looking at what the tow is.
One more quick question,
Sure.
then I'm done. I noticed that 2 of the companies have re-signed because of the length of time that's gone past. Re-signed this. and one company didn't.
That's
Is there a
correct.
reason for that?
That's correct. Area Towing has not signed their sheet yet. They were disputing some of these, the pricing thing.
Sorry.
He's done.
Again,
Next.
I'm just presenting you the
Okay.
information,
All
so.
right, thank you.
And what I'd like to turn your attention to real quick.
Before you go into that, if I could just address that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we did any continuation with them, it would be upon execution of the document.
Right. So I guess what was the need for signing the price? I mean, they signed the RFP, right?
They did, but because of the lapse of time, we wanted to make sure we went back and spoke to each of the three companies and just confirmed that they still had no objections and there were no concerns. And I don't know what the exact holdup is on the third one, but again, before we move forward, we would make sure that that's an executed document.
Okay, Councilman Croft.
Okay, question, I just want to get an idea of how you foresee having the three companies. So let's just say there's an accident at Telegraph and Goddard. Let's say it's 4 cars. So you're going to call all 3 companies, or you're going to call one person so you can get there to book us? I mean, how is that going to work?
Yeah, I mean, there's some logistics we have to work out with it, but again, we'd like to have a primary tower, and then we'd like to hit each one of them in areas that they excel at. Now, if that 4-car
Okay,
accident.
that brings me to my second question with your recommendation. So it sounds like you're recommending Martin's for auctions, and you're recommending J&M for the heavy equipment towing.
J&M
Is
definitely for a heavy.
Is that
for the
kind of
heavy
how you
equipment.
foresee this happening then? And then area towing for the main towing? I mean,
Probably the main side of the towing, yes, that's what we're looking at. Now, again, if you have 4 cars, I'm not gonna make cars wait.
right.
We could have a
So you
secondary
could have,
backup
you could
one
have a backup.
to provide efficient, effective service. And that's what we're looking at. You probably wouldn't like your car left out in the roadway, you know, because you're waiting for the same tow company to come pick them up. Logistics, we have to work through. This is new to us, it really is. But we're trying to create an efficient, professional environment with this, and we're hoping that this
Well,
may
what I
address
don't
that.
want to see is that you have a logistical nightmare where you got 3 towers showing
Appreciate
up,
that.
and you know what I mean, and your officers have to deal with extra paperwork, or
Appreciate
that
that.
they don't need to have to be dealing with.
We're not dealing with that right now, though.
Right.
Currently.
No, we're not.
So that's what I don't understand about that statement. My other thing is we, 2-3 years ago, we walked into office and got nothing but complaints. A group or committee, I don't know what it was to sit down, and what happened is we actually took over the state police guidelines for towing. At that point, I can't speak on behalf of anybody else. I got no complaints and I got nothing but positive emails, which was very shocking.
Right.
So what I don't understand is, if it's good for the state, why isn't it good for the city? Because to me, I don't care who the tower is, when I look at these fees, I think they're too low. You know, we can't, you know, although the other side of it is they decided to put in for it, and they knew the amounts coming into it, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, so-
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, just briefly, because we can talk about prices forever.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, because I want to just comment. We don't just have one, because what happens is the current vendor, Area Towing, when they become overloaded or overwhelmed, they make calls, they subcontract. So there are various other vendors, which kind of.
For heavy, correct?
Go for anything. I mean, if it just, it's a business decision they make, that when if the conditions are bad, if it's heavy and out of their capability, there's a variety of reasons. So there are other conditions that apply that other vendors participate. And we've done no background on any of them, and we have no input on who does what. Secondly, we didn't adopt the state police. That was not an amendment. What we adopted was a resident rate. And so what happened with that resident rate was there was a fixed price to Taylor residents that were non-police tows. And that was what we adopted, and that's kind of when I think you're saying the complaints went down, but they didn't go down, they just stopped coming to council meetings. We still get complaints, we still take on, whether it's the police department or the mayor's office, we still field a fair amount of issues, and that's what inspired us to kind of dig in. And at the time it was Chief Slabassi, we said select a handful of communities that are similar to Taylor. We'll use those communities, and the communities that were selected, I believe, were Farmington Hills, Livonia, and Novi. And we kind of based the pricing model on what those communities were doing, and not the state police. Because the state police, you got to remember, their pricing's a little bit skewed because they have to respond, in some cases, if it's in northern Michigan, it's a rural area, so they may have to drive for 45 minutes to get to it, so their pricing is a little bit higher, and probably rightfully so when you balance it out. But for the city of Taylor, that drive's not, it's not here, so it's just, we think that based on those comparables, the pricing model is very fair.